We're going to close with you too. But Attorney Jackie Terlaje, who is the president of the Guam Bar Association.
Yeah. You got a hotline over there, Jackie?
Yeah, I'm just going to say I did put out the ask to get the Attorney General on just to kind of talk about the legality, and I think Carlino was kind of tongue in cheek, like no, thank you. And I just want to say, guys, the silence from the legislature outside of Jim Moylan, who writes 5 letters every day.
No, I think Chris Drain, the minority leader, also sent something out.
Right, yeah. It's been very quiet. You know, we haven't heard. Well, from the speaker, I would assume that we would hear. I'm curious why we're not seeing a reaction, but we're going to get a reaction from Jackie Terlaje, that's for sure, the president of the Guam Bar. Let's just start right at the beginning. Is this executive order,
in your
opinion, your esteemed legal opinion, enforceable, implementable?
Legal?
Yeah. First of all, Chris, let me tell you that I'm appearing today as Jacqueline Terlaje. I'm not appearing here today on behalf of the Bar Association of Guam. Okay. So I speak on my own behalf. And I also don't speak on behalf of my clients today. So I speak as Jackie Terlaje, the attorney who has a limited opinion of certain things that have happened on our island over the weekend, okay?
Is this also the Jackie Terlaje that has represented people who have protested the quarantine? Is this the same Jackie Terlaje?
I think I am that same.
Yeah, you got a track record of troublemaking.
Yeah. No, so, let's get right to it. I think one of the biggest problems that we're seeing here with this executive order is the right to choose. That somehow the right to choose is being taken away from us. It's fundamental that as humans we have the right to choose, that we have free will, that we have choice. And so if our right to choose is being stripped from us, isn't this executive order akin to a crime against humanity? And if it's a crime against our humanity, against our fundamental right to choose, why is it that people are so quiet, so silent, almost acquiescent to this? And then you have to ask yourself as well, Sabrina, who are we trying to target in this particular executive order, right? So, I love math, and so I like to go and look at the numbers that are put out by, the JIC releases. And I said, okay, hold on. I think there are 170,000 people on this island based on the last census, right? So if there's 170 of us, 70,000, and 107,000 are already vaccinated, we're already at 88% vaccination. So that means we are targeting what percentage? 12% of the population? Guess who that 12% is, really? That 12% is children. So if this 12% are children, is this really an attack against the family? Remember, our governor is also pro-choice. She supports abortion. Is this another insidious attack against the family? And I say that simply because on a personal level, 60% of my household is not vaccinated. And so that's the thing. And I have family members who have 100% of their household. People I know. Why? Because they have religious convictions. Many of us make the right to choose a vaccination for our personal reasons. I myself, I'm included in that. For personal reasons, I chose to vaccinate. But for personal reasons, I choose not to vaccinate my children. Like to tell me that I am mandated to vaccinate my children when we are at an emergency use vaccine. Now, I don't want to be a fortune teller, okay? I'm not a fortune teller, but I suspect that there's going to be lawsuits by maybe families who refuse to vaccinate their children because, public health and this executive order don't make any accommodations for patrons. I as a patron, in fact, I had plans to go out to lunch today that I'd made last week. I'm not going to lunch. Why? Because I refuse to produce my vaccine card. Can I demand from the restaurant that each of their employees, before serving me, produce their vaccination cards? Heck no, I got no right to do that, right? I'm invading the employee's right to their privacy, the right to keep their medical information private. Why should I not be afforded the same courtesy and respect? Now, I've been listening all morning, right, because, Chris invited me to come on the show at 6:45, and I said, I got to drop children off. I got to do 10 things this morning. No, but, I stopped to listen, right? And a lot of the comments caused me, a lot of concern. People who speak up are characterized as antagonists, as self-righteous, as anal. I won't repeat who the speakers were. I'll just mention that I come from the same bloodline. I'm a relative, right? And I don't feel the same. I don't feel the same that speaking up is antagonistic in any way, that challenging the government's order that I do not have the right to choose a vaccination for my child. I don't think that that is anal in any sense or self-righteous. I think it's my right as a human being. It's my right as a person. It's my right as a parent. And so the thing is, we're going to see, I think, also our restaurants step up, our businesses. I was reading over the weekend Claire Calvo from Synergy, and I was watching Samantha just a few moments ago talking about our businesses. Now, Claire Calvo is not vaccinated. I have known her since we were children, and she has always had a very holistic approach to life. She's always taking care of her body. She's a healthy woman. She's gorgeous. And that's the thing, is she should not have to vaccinate against her will. And so now the government is telling her, I'm sorry, Miss Calvo, you can't even go to your own business. Because remember, she owns a gym. So now Miss Calvo can't teach her class. She cannot participate in her business. So who should she turn her business over to? I don't know, some guy on the street? Maybe there's a homeless man who wants to run her business for her. Is that right? Should the government have the right to take away the personal property of business owners? And then I don't even want to get into, again, religious exemptions, okay? I am a Catholic woman. Most people know this, right? And I follow the Lord. I want to follow the Lord. That's my desire. Well, the problem is that if I assert my religious exemption as a patron, there's no exemption. They can't, make that determination. But even worse, the employees of these restaurants, of these businesses are subjected to this new public order. Guess who's making that determination? Public health. So public health is going to micromanage now our restaurants. They're going to micromanage all our health clubs. So if public health is the determiner of who gets an exemption, does that make all of our restaurants and businesses now state actors for purposes of lawsuits? Does that mean now the government of Guam should be held liable for any conduct of our businesses? Last I checked, when the government takes over a business, when the government seizes business operations like this, we're no longer a democracy. We're a communist country. I'm starting to smell more and more this communist flair. I get very concerned. Why? Because I say it goes back to choice. It goes back to democracy. And in the end, we're not given that. Some people have told me, but Jackie, Pope Francis says for the common good, for common man, you should vaccinate. And I agree. I follow my Holy Father. I believe in the goodness and the holiness of my Holy Father. But there's something that the mainstream consistently leaves out of that calculation, of that statement of Pope Francis. Pope Francis says we are fundamentally human. God gives us the right to choose. So if we are given the right to choose by God, we are given the right to choose by the Holy Father, we are given the right to choose to abort, why not the right to choose to eat at a restaurant unvaccinated? You see how crazy this all sounds. Anyhow, I'm going off on a tirade, apparently.
No, please keep on.
I did just want to get your thoughts, though, because the question of legal authority was asked during the press conference, and the governor said, I have the Organic Act authority. The Organic Act gives me the legal authority to do what I'm doing, to impose these restrictions.
Okay, and the governor is right. The Organic Act says she has certain authority. But even our Supreme Court of Guam and the Supreme Court of the United States has recognized that every act of authority by government is restricted by constitutional limitations. And this is why I'm saying, are there constitutional breaches that are occurring by this particular public health order? Because as of today, according to that public health order, my children cannot see their grandparents. No social gatherings because my grandparents don't live in my house. I hate to sound like the prophet Nathan in the Bible with King David, right? Those of you who know Bible history, but with Bible history, King David did something wrong, right? And this prophet Nathan came forward and said, hey, this man did this awful thing. And this is what we're saying today. I'm telling you, sa gagi si Tautaw, that man is standing on the street, gagi gitsalan, no? He's standing on the street and he has prohibited everyone from interacting with their family. Grandchildren who are unvaccinated, children who are vaccinated, or who are unvaccinated, are not permitted to interact with the vaccinated. So our grandparents are 70 to 85. They're between those ages in my family. And so they're vaccinated. So now my children are prohibited from visiting their grandparents. And, I told my dad last night, in fact, I said, I lucky dad, kiss your grandchildren because the governor has ordered that you shall never see them again because they're not vaccinated. And I have no intention of vaccinating my children. Is that right? Does that violate somehow our rights? And the prophet Nathan, right, he announces, right, this wrong. And the King David responds with, let's kill this man. Who is he? Right? And so the thing is, I say that today is, under normal circumstances, our people would say, this is wrong. We cannot tell grandparents and children that they have no right to interact. So what's wrong today? Why is it our people are not saying anything? Because we've created this tremendous atmosphere of fear. Somehow we no longer trust in anything, right? All we're afraid of is this COVID. Well, when you look at the difference between the situation of vaccinated and unvaccinated, right? The transmission is the same. A vaccinated person can get COVID, an unvaccinated person can get COVID. So what's the difference between the two? The only difference is the unvaccinated may be at the hospital longer, may have worse conditions, but the unvaccinated transmitting this is not going to transmit it to someone who has been vaccinated. They've told us this, if we believe the science, right, that those of us who are vaccinated will not experience the worst scenario cases of COVID-19. So then the only person that we're seeking to segregate are those people who might go to the hospital, who might end up sick, right? And so isn't that a choice? Isn't that the choice? Because I'm not subjecting anybody else to being sick, you see? So when I say choice, it's so important that we choose in society. We all choose every single day of our lives. And why not this one? We have reached what they call herd immunity, right? So then you say, well, Jackie, are you saying that there are other motivations right here? What other motivations could there possibly be? I tell you that I saw a news article that said Medicaid has increased reimbursement from $28 to $40 per vaccination. So if I had 2 doses, free government charge, right? Free of government charge, then that's an $80 reimbursement for the government. Do the math.
Wait a minute, you're
If
saying,
we have
are you
100%
saying?
vaccination rate, we get $13 million.
Wow.
Isn't that nice?
I exciting.
Okay.
So,
Cosinian Agang si Ludes and Feisenhofer Estina Clausen executive order. Sai Cao Cao Ti Zungu.
And that's what gets me is that Jackie, they came out 30 minutes after the press conference and said because of the public concern they're not going to institute fines, but it wasn't even the fines the public was crying about, or they were just mad about the whole thing.
And I would just like to add what Jackie has eloquently said is basically a demonstration right now as what I learned in the 7th grade. Do never get into an argument with Jackie Tapino.
Yeah.
oh, Jason.
Thank you, Jackie. We got to run.
Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Oh,
there you go.
I appreciate it. There
Appreciate
always
you.
has to be a voice.
Yeah.
There has to be a voice of dissent because then there's no balance.
Yeah.
So that's why it's necessary that people speak up.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you,
be
Jackie.
in touch for sure.
Yeah. Good morning. Let's go into the KUAM News Zoom.